Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Hail Yes, a Detroit Free Press podcast about University of Michigan athletics. I'm Tony Garcia, Michigan basketball and football writer for The Free, joined as always by our editor and my co-host and producer of the podcast, Andrew Burkle. Andrew, it is March. There are absolutely no time for pleasantries, although I would love to know how you're doing, so I guess we can get a little bit of pleasantries in. I mean, little CBS doubleheader in the Big Ten with first place on the line. If that does not get your March juices flowing, then you are in the wrong business. Isn't that right?
Totally agree. I was talking to one of our columnists, guest on this show, Sean Windsor. I was like, man, it's college basketball right now. You know, Pistons are obviously a fun story. The Red Wings are trending down a little bit. We got the combine, a million other things going on, of course. But right now, the college basketball is on the viewing public's mind. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
This year has already been a ton of fun for Michigan basketball. And I wasn't correcting you. I was just
no, it's true.
It's already been fun, and now we got more fun coming, right? Or you'd like to think, because we're not here to appease anybody on this show. I'm here to give it to you straight. That has always been sort of my MO, our MO, and that's the plan. And the vibes have been high, and we've been enjoying it. But Michigan has certainly come back to earth this last week. Perhaps not with the record, a 2-1 week, but I mean, if you're being honest, it could have been an 0-3 week. So they're certainly fortunate, happy to have gone 2-1, but it certainly changes the feel, the vibes, the momentum heading into the final week of the regular season. And it is just such a unique position, Andrew, because I mean, here I am talking sort of like the sky is falling, right? Like, man, they're not playing well, and they could have lost all 3 games. If Michigan goes 2-0 this week, they will win the Big Ten championship. Full stop. It might be a share with MSU. You don't know. That depends on what Michigan State does against Iowa. But Michigan in March is one of 2 teams in the league that says, yeah, we can still win a Big Ten title, and it is entirely incumbent upon what we do these next 2 games. That's where you want to be.
No doubt. And, you know, Michigan State beating Wisconsin yesterday, Sunday, I should say, because this is probably going to get released on Tuesday. You see, I looked at the standings yesterday, and, you know, Wisconsin's in 3rd place. They have 6 losses. You know, Michigan's, say what you want. Even if they lose their last 2 games, they're already locked into the Big Ten tournament double bye. And worst case scenario, they're tied for 2nd, basically. So they're in a great position still as far as putting together a full slate of games and schedules and, you know, quality resume, as they like to say this time of the year. But I think what you're referring to is more so the direction that they're trending. And we'll talk a lot about that throughout the show and how quickly things can change. But, you know, you'd be lying if you're a Michigan fan or someone talking to a Michigan fan saying, if you said that you're not looking at them as trending a little down right now.
It's funny. You almost wish the season had happened in reverse, right? Because now that they're trending down, it is almost in some aspects, in some factions of the fan base, feels like it's taking away from the fact of everything you just said. Worst case scenario, Michigan State ties for 2nd in the Big Ten. And with tiebreakers, maybe that could be 4th. They are locked into a double bye. They will be playing on Friday in the Big Ten tournament. They have not seen Friday in the tournament in 3 years. They were bounced on Wednesday last year, bounced on Thursday the year before. It is notable progress. They are beyond guaranteed to be in the NCAA tournament. Worst case scenario, you're looking at a 5 seed and a win or 2. I mean, they're right back on the 3 seed line, right? So they are in a really good spot, and that's because they've done the work throughout the course of the season to put them there. However, in their last 12 games, they are 9-3. That's a wonderful record. That is tied for the best record over that stretch in the Big Ten. And yet, Andrew, they have fallen in KenPom from number 11 nationally to number 29. And that is that's computers, that's analytics. There's still, I think the rankings came out this afternoon, Monday. They're still like 15 something, right in the mid-teens in the polls. But the computer metrics that look at some of those deeper things that really liked Michigan early before some of the people were on them, they are now fading a bit for Michigan. And it's just as simple as what we've seen. All 3 losses in that stretch by double figures. All 9 wins in that stretch by 4 points or fewer. All that needed to be pulled out in the last couple minutes. I mean, a few of those, Rutgers and Indiana, they hit some late threes to sort of make it look closer than it was. But Michigan, that Indiana game in Bloomington, at the beginning of last month, they were tied with under 4 to play. Rutgers, that finished as a 3-point game, and it wasn't totally done. I'm talking about the first Rutgers game, right? And then you have this week, right? I guess we'll just bring it full circle. They don't even score 50 points against Nebraska. They're up by 1 with 10 seconds left. They miss a front end. Connor Essegian, maybe Nebraska's best shooter, second behind Bryce Williams, has a great look at a 3 that you've seen him hit way too many times. He misses, and they survive. A few days later, home, Rutgers, you're down 12 with less than 10 minutes to play. Claw back, fight back. It's inside of 2 the whole way, the final 2 minutes. You go up 1 with 30 seconds left. Then you commit just an egregious foul on a 3. You go down by 1, 3.5 seconds left. Dusty draws up a play. Namari Burnett just saves the day with a 28-foot winner. But then Illinois comes in and just really takes it to you. 19 offensive rebounds. 19 offensive rebounds on 39 missed shots. I've very few times have you seen a stat line like that against a good team, right? Like, Michigan is still a good team, but to just get hammered that way, it gave them no chance. Illinois was kicking it out to 3, just stepping into rhythm 3s, and Michigan not shooting well. I know this has been, that was kind of a long little winded segment before I threw it back to you, Andrew, but that was just looking back at this past week. And yes, they're 2-1, but you hear how easily it could have been 0-3, and you sort of see why the computer metrics are starting to fall. And the last line I will give you before I feed it to you back is, I did a story this week after the Namari miracle shot against Rutgers. I was asking myself, like, what are the odds that Michigan actually just wins all these games, given how close it's been in so many shots? And I'm not a mathematician, but I did my best to calculate it. And we had smarter minds on the editor desk double checking and making sure. And I think they did confirm. Based on ESPN win probability metrics in the second half, if you look at their 10% chance to beat Purdue, 5% chance against Rutgers, it was 38% Penn State, a couple others in the 40s, somewhere, yes, 62%, but even that is only a little better than a coin flip. Look at it all together, and Michigan's odds to win the 9 games that it did were about 1 in 77,000. So it felt like they were really, I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors, because that feels like it is not giving them any credit. It did feel like they were punching a little bit above their weight, and Sunday was water finding its level, as it all too often does in sports.
And I think we'd be remiss to not say that a 2-1 stretch with some close wins and a tough loss on Sunday, 3 games in a week, is obviously a busy week in the college basketball schedule. But it's not that on its surface is as terrible as it is. Sometimes there's waves throughout the season. A lot of this, I think, is being colored by the loss to Michigan State the Friday prior as well. It feels like you have to look at that as a 4-game schedule. And that's, I'm sure, why Michigan fans feel the way they do, is because it is part of the equation, right? Like, you can go week to week, but that doesn't tell the full story. Michigan lost on Friday, one on Monday, one on Thursday, lost on Sunday. So basically a little over a week, that's 4 games. That's kind of how I think you have to look at it. And so, yeah, squeezing wins out, that's great and all, but you wrote after the Michigan State game, I think it was after the Michigan State game, right, about Michigan's got a shooting problem all of a sudden. They can't hit jump shots, and it's trickling down, it's causing all these other issues, and we're seeing that. So things are so fickle. Look at Illinois, who just came into Chrysler and kicked Michigan's butt. A few days ago, they looked like a corpse, like they were dead. They had lost by double digits at home against Michigan State. Completely collapsed. Like, you thought, Michigan fans, the loss to Michigan State was bad, where you fell apart in the last few minutes. This was way worse. They scored -2 points for the last 7+ minutes. Then they get killed by Wisconsin and just destroyed by Duke. Well, a few days later, they beat Iowa by 21 points, and they look like, a top 3 seed in the tournament, destroying Michigan on their home floor. So things can change very quickly. Let's pump the brake. We're not, I don't want people to think that we're like, hey, season's over, this is doom and gloom. There's so much basketball to play. But the only thing that we can look at right now is this 4-game sample size where things seem to be trending in the wrong direction.
And here, the real issue is you want to be playing your best at this time of year. To a man, they say and are well aware that they're not. They're not playing at their best. They're not playing even at the level they're capable of. We saw them play better basketball in January. And so to go from January to February to March and be playing worse than you were is just concerning. Now, I think that's great context. You're right. We probably should look at it as a 4-game stretch, because it was 4 games in 9 days. That is not easy. And at least a couple of them right? Against Michigan State and Illinois for sure. Nebraska right on the bubble were tournament games, tournament against tournament teams. Now, unfortunately, those were both at home, and you dropped both at home, right? But earlier in the year, Michigan lost in overtime to Minnesota. Then they beat Northwestern in overtime. Then they got hammered by Purdue before they beat Penn State by 4. That was a 2-2 stretch in 4 games. And it really felt like they were about to start hitting the skids, right? I mean, their win against Penn State, they were down 5 with 1:50 to play, and they came back. Northwestern, who was not playing well at the time and still isn't, although they did have Brooks Barnheiser available for that game. I mean, Northwestern was up 3 with less than 5 to play, and they needed to go to overtime to win that one. And that's after they had lost to Minnesota, which was Minnesota's first Big Ten win of the year, right? So there was already a little stretch where people are like, oh, myself included, like, hey, like this. And Dusty called it sort of a fork in the road, right, at that time at Purdue. It was the Purdue loss, which capped that he called a fork in the road. They then won 6 in a row after that. 6 straight, counting the Penn State win. And so you've seen it. This team has answered the bell time and time again. And so it's not that they can't. It's that they're just not playing well. And let's get in a little bit of some of those people who aren't playing well, right? Take Danny Wolf, who was really the guy that made this team go. He was the to use your phrase, the queen on the chessboard, Andrew, which is a great phrase. He scored 11 points or fewer in 4 straight. He has not shot better than 50% from the floor in 5 games. He is 3 of 16 from 3 in that span in the last 5. And in the last 3 games, he has 10 turnovers compared to 7 assists. If your best player is doing that, it's amazing. You went 2-1 in those 3 games, right? And then just before I give it to you, let me give you a couple others. I don't want to belabor it too much because Roddy's already getting enough of it, certainly from the fan base, which he just doesn't need. And when you're having mental and confidence problems, 2 fan bases against you, Ohio State and Michigan, I guess maybe 3, probably MSU as well, that's not going to help. But Roddy has struggled. There's no doubt about it. 7 points per game, the last 5 games. He has missed his last 16 3-pointers, and he is 1 for 26 in the year of 2025. It's just, you couldn't fathom that. You could not fathom shooting 4% from or less from long range. That's not denigrating. I could do that just by luck. And so it's just a really unfortunate stretch that Roddy's, and even the one he missed against Illinois, Dusty said it. I mean, and that one looked good. That one looked good off his hand. Back iron, just another brutal miss. And then you got Trey Donaldson, who has now scored 9 points or fewer in 4 of the last 5 games. Only one time in the last 9, that's since the beginning of February, has he shot better than 50% from the floor. And he was a 43-point shooter for a long, long time. He hasn't made more than 1 3 in a game in his past 5. He is 4 for 19 during that stretch. And I mean, there you have it. Roddy's not hitting shots. Trey's not hitting shots. Danny's not hitting shots. They turn it over, and that's been an issue, right, all season, and now the board.
Can I flip it around you? Instead of asking what Michigan players aren't doing, because we've seen that they're capable. You know, you put it together brilliantly there. Like, no one is playing their best. Like, point to me the guy who's playing their best. Maybe Burnett is playing. Vlad is playing, but still, I mean, his rebounding has been left a little bit to be desired from a team perspective. What are teams doing to make them struggle like that? Have you noticed a trend where they're trying to take Wolf away? Are they trapping Wolf? What do you think X and O's wise, or what has Dusty said that is kind of making them off or not play their best basketball? Because this is, I mean, like you said, a lot of this seems to date back to that loss to Minnesota, where they haven't won a game by more than 4 points since January 12th when they beat Washington. So yes, they've been winning games, and impressively so. You know, you got to take the Purdue win's a great win. The Oregon game win is a good win. At Indiana was a pretty good win considering the way they were playing. It's not like they don't have any good wins, but it's basically since January 12th they've not been playing their best. So what do you think other teams are doing to them?
It's a good question. That's the $1 million question, and certainly what Michigan is trying to find out. And I don't think all the teams are attacking them in the same way, right? I think teams are using their strengths to limit Michigan in different ways. Let's go to this weekend against Illinois, for example. Illinois is notorious for running you off the 3-point line. They are fantastic at it. What Illinois does is they make you take, in the business, as we call it, mid-range shots. And that is exactly what Michigan does not do. They are all about high percentage looks. It's a dunk, a layup, a three, or a free throw. Those are the shots Michigan wants to take. And so Illinois ran them off their spots at times, so they weren't getting good looks from three. They had to settle for a few floaters that none of them take almost ever, just because because they can always get or almost always get a better shot. So they don't want people really taking those 10-foot floaters, but they had to settle for some yesterday and missed them all, missed every single one of them. Then you got Vlad, who was doing very well. Illinois looked pretty content to trade twos for threes, right? I mean, they're like, hey, you dump it down there, that's fine. Worst case scenario, I mean, I guess you go the old-fashioned three-point play and get an and one, but you're only going to get 2 points on this trip, and we're going to take a three on the other end, and if we miss it, we're going to rebound half of them and then take another look, right? And so it's unique. Like, that game was unique. Michigan State, also
similar
another
formula,
one that just
similar formula, right? Where State runs you off the 3-point line and try to win on the rebounds. When you started saying it, that's what I was going to say.
It's not a coincidence, right? That a couple of these teams that do the same thing, that Michigan looked the same way against both of them. And then, I mean, the word that has come back that Dusty has said is confidence. And this team has lost its confidence. I'm not going to say all of its confidence. I'm not going to say but they are not as confident a group as they were 50 days ago. There's absolutely no question about that. And you can see it in sort of the shot selection. I don't quite remember. I'm trying to remember and recall. It feels like it was 4 games in 9 days, a lot of close ones, they blend together. But there was a Danny Wolf play on the right wing. It was either against Rutgers, but I think it was against Illinois. He caught it right wing, maybe 6 inches behind the 3-point line, right where you want to be. I've seen him this year catch and shoot so many times that shot. He didn't. He hesitated. He kind of put the ball on the deck, and then he shot it. And then by then it was contested, and he missed. And then it was an instant defensive rebound and a run out the other way. And there's been a lot of that. Roddy, certainly, respectfully, he's hesitant to shoot right now. He's thinking about it. Trey Donaldson, he's 4 of his last 19. He's thinking about it. Sam Walters, who does a phenomenal job spacing the floor in those corners, in those deep corners, and he had been fine in his form. He was like 5 of 12 in the last 4 games he played. He hasn't played since Ohio State. He's missed 5 games in a row. So you're missing a shooter. Other guys are hesitating. One guy has lost his confidence completely. Vlad is really only scoring 2, and yes, he's doing it 70% of the time. It feels like he shoots, but add it all up, and there's just not enough answers right now. Too many people are struggling simultaneously. And then we haven't even mentioned the free throws. My word. It is just Vlad 0 for 4 yesterday. Danny missed his. Outside of that, they were actually 13 of 14. They were 5 of 10 early on, right? They had missed. They went like 8 of their last 9 or something, but it was too late at that point. It feels like so often they are missing the and one. So often they're missing a front end. It's just little things. And frankly, I could go on and on. They're missing around the rim now. A month and a half ago, they led the nation in 2-point shooting. They were shooting 62% on twos. They are now, it's obviously still very good, but they're 7th in the nation at 58.7%. And in Big Ten play, it's 56.3%, right? So that's 4th in the league, but that's just not going to cut it. And 3-point shooting now, 31.6% in Big Ten play, 16th out of 18 teams. In the day and age when Michigan wanted to shoot threes, if you're 16th out of 18 teams in the league, they should be getting kudos beyond kudos for still being second place. Because last one, Andrew, that I'll give to you, their efficiency margin. I'd written this nugget down. In Big Ten play, they are net plus 1.3 points. They are 1.3. Their overall offensive to defensive efficiency, they're 1.3 points to the good. That's 7th in the league. And kind of a distant 7th. It's not first place MSU plus 15 and a half. This is not close, right? To the gap. And so when you look, they're only 1 game back in the standings. And so that's why you can take so many, there are so many good vibes and positive things about finding ways. And in 2 weeks, nobody's going to talk. Luck doesn't matter. How it happens doesn't matter. Absolutely nothing matters but finding a way. And Michigan has done that. But you have to look at the bigger picture and their efficiency and the way it's getting done. And when you're 16th in the league in 3-point shooting and your twos aren't falling and you're turning it over at a very high clip. Worst rate in the Big Ten, 18th out of 18 in turnovers, and you don't rebound all that well. I mean, you're okay, but not great. I mean, I guess they're fourth in offensive rebound. They're fourth in offensive rebound rate, but 13th in offensive rebound rate allowed, right? So it's a little give and take there. And altogether, they could still win it. They could still win this Big Ten title. But holistically, this is generally not the formula or the resume when you go under the hood of a Big Ten title team.
Yeah. And as you were talking, I kind of just, came to me that it just seems like they're putting out a lot of fires at the same time, right? Like Michigan was withstanding it.
They're playing whack-a-mole.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can and have withstood Roddy Gale's just horrendous shooting. I mean, 20% from three is so bad. And it's not just the shooting, outside of the arc. It's just, jump shooting in general seems to not be going great for him right now. At the same time, I just feel like Michigan has lost its identity while playing this whack-a-mole. I think back to the Arkansas game when Michigan, even it wasn't maybe their best performance of the year, but it just felt so rock solid that you knew exactly what this team was. It was going to run the pick and roll between Vlad and Danny a million times, and they were going to pick their defense apart and get great looks. And then you had like six guys besides Vlad and Danny who were going to do their part and contribute to the team. And now it just seems like through the whack-a-mole that they've lost that identity a little bit, where I just don't really know what they are right now.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, go through it one by one. Trey Donaldson, we detailed it. He's taken a step back. He's not hitting as many threes, and he's just not facilitating the offense as well as he had early on. But even still, I kind of said this early in the year, I like Trey Donaldson. Great energy, fiery player. For me, you want your lead guard to be a little less microwavy, right? I mean, he can get hot in an instant, but he just disappears for spurts, and that can't happen. Roddy Gale, shooting. Don't need to say anything beyond that. Namari's been very good. I would not say there's anything Namari. I mean, you are maximizing Namari. He's hitting threes, and even that Rutgers game, I would say that was the best basketball game I have seen Namari Burnett play in 2 years. I would say without question. He finished and ones at the rim. He had a tough from the right elbow, little fadeaway glasser. I didn't even know he had that in his bag. Hit a handful of threes. Had a career high, I think, 6 free throw attempts, which shows, I mean, he's playing aggressive. He's getting to the rim. He's drawing fouls. So that's good from Namari. But Danny's gone quiet. He's not, it feels like they're not running as much of their offense through him. I mean, he took 6 shots this last game against Illinois, and you're down 20. 6 shots. Shoot the ball. Take over. So, I mean, if anything, I would ask, I mean, as I think about it, I'd like a little bit more aggressiveness from Danny. I mean, you're the best player. You're not playing the best, but you're the most unique skill set. You have to take this over. He needs to reassert himself. It's funny because in East Lansing, and I'm not saying this facetiously in any way, in East Lansing, the talk all year has been about, there's no guy, right? There's no go-to guy. They don't have anyone, but they're deeper than hell. Michigan, their depth is fading, and now it's starting to feel like the go-to guy is not quite there, right? I mean, before the season, we asked Dusty, if you need a bucket, who do you think it's going to be? Their answer was Roddy Gale. Then, early on in the season, when it was tight game, and Michigan wasn't quite pulling it out, Trey Donaldson, if you remember, Minnesota, Northwestern, all these games, Penn State, he closed out. I mean, they were giving him the ball, and they were riding with Trey. And then Danny had just been the guy, like, they hadn't closed with him that much. But even earlier this week, when Namari hit the game-winning 3, the play was designed for Danny. They wanted to get it to Danny at the top of the key, have him drive. Maybe he could dump it to Vlad or finish, but the play broke down and Namari saved the day. So that's a long way of saying I'm just not sure who the guy is right now for Michigan. I mean, we know Danny can be. Vlad's been great. Trey can be. Namari's been solid. But I don't have an answer right now for who the guy is.
Yeah, and sounds like a lot of doom and gloom here. And we'll take a break here shortly and look ahead to some of the positives and what can still be left on the schedule here. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be frustrating for everyone involved, because it seems like, and that was the thing, is for a team built in 1 year through the transfer portal, everyone was complimenting each other so well and moving in such the right direction, where like Michigan doesn't have the talent level maybe of like Auburn or Duke or some of those top teams. But as far as they were playing as well together as any team in the country for a short period of time there, where especially offensively, they were really scoring like crazy. I'm looking back in the December era. So once they played Iowa after playing Wisconsin, there was like a, real grudge match. They played Iowa and they scored 85, 89 against Arkansas, 87 against Oklahoma, 89 against Purdue Fort Wayne, 112 against Western Kentucky, 85 against USC, 94 against UCLA, 91 against Washington, and even 84, 80, and 91 when they started going off the rails a little bit. Now it just seems like it's tough for them to score above 70. Not that they can't do it. They did it against OSU and Rutgers, but it feels like a slog.
It does at times. And Rutgers is one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to refute you, but I don't think we're being hard on this team. I really don't. I don't think this is doom and gloom. I don't think we're saying they're bad players or bad people or anything. This was a team that was in the driver's seat for a Big Ten championship 48 hours ago, and then laid a complete egg at the biggest moment, which has been just capped off a concerning trend. And so they can still win a Big Ten title. They can still go to a Final Four, but they can't do it playing like this. So let's take a quick break. And on the other end, we're going to look ahead to the biggest week of the season. Don't go anywhere. This is Hail Yes. All right, welcome back. Michigan, 2 games left in the regular season that will determine if they are outright Big Ten champions, co-Big Ten champions, or somewhere just beneath that. Unfortunately, Michigan cannot control that outright Big Ten championship anymore. That's out of its control. It can get some help if Iowa beats Michigan State in Iowa City. Now, I mean, Iowa is one of the worst teams in the league this year. However, it's going to be their senior day, I believe. They can get hot from outside. You just never know. But I don't think you can really count on much help there. So what that would mean is, and in any event, Michigan must, absolutely, no matter what, win on Wednesday in order to have any say or any level of control for this Big Ten title. And that's the good news. Michigan is up first. And if Michigan beats Maryland, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m., Big Ten Network, final home game at Chrysler Center of the year. If they win that game, then no matter what, the game in East Lansing will be for a share of the Big Ten title. Even if MSU wins, MSU will be 1 game up, and a Michigan win would earn it that share. So it all comes down to this Maryland game in order to play for something in East Lansing. And while that's great, you love to just home game, win it, and you're playing for a title. That's phenomenal. Maryland's a really good team. And everybody's tracking both of these teams, right? As Michigan State and Michigan are jockeying for position. I mean, MSU needed a 60-foot buzzer beater to survive Maryland. Now they were winning much of that game, and that was on the road. But still, if that doesn't show you just how tough this Maryland team is, it was 58-55. So get ready for a boxing match. Yeah.
Maryland also, I mean, I think Michigan has more than enough talent to beat Maryland. No, it's kind of weird timing here, like we said, but it's almost a perfect opportunity to get things back on track. I mentioned Illinois beating Iowa. That just got their momentum rolling. The Terrapins bounced back after losing that heartbreaker to Michigan State, kind of barely held on to a 68-64 win over Penn State on the road. I think for Michigan, it's almost not even about the opponents right now. It's about getting themselves to be playing better basketball here, right? Take care of business Wednesday against Maryland and see what happens up in East Lansing against Michigan State. I think it's important for them to not get blown out if they do lose to Michigan State. Keeping it close, maybe win, see what happens. Try to ultimately focus on playing better basketball because, like you said, so much of their work has been done. They're firmly in the tournament. They're probably somewhere now between, if they went out, beat Maryland and Michigan State, they could probably be as high as a 3 seed or maybe somewhere as low as a 5 seed. They're probably in that range, maybe 6 if things went really awry. Either way, they're going to be right there. They're in a good spot. So yes, I mean, Michigan State, I think is not a great matchup for Michigan, but it's not, like I said, it's not even about that. If they can't get guys rolling and start finding their identity again, it's not going to matter. Yeah.
I got to be honest, Andrew, I don't know how great of a matchup Maryland is for Michigan either, because there's not a ton. It's funny. I keep saying there's not a lot of teams that can match Michigan's front court, but as you make your way through this Big Ten season, even like it seemed like Rutgers with a couple of, I mean, not that they do it in the front court, but a couple of future top 5 picks. Illinois, who's a middle of the pack team this year based on their results. I mean, I was standing courtside at Chrysler Center, but just because they were doing senior day festivities, so walking around, making sure, getting pictures, videos, all those things. I'm always on the court before the game, just watching both the teams warm up. I'm not kidding. I have not said this before. Any game, I walked back to some of my media contemporaries, and I was just like, that might be the tallest team that I've ever seen. I mean, it looks like they were all just stretched out. Everyone is so long. And I was like, how can you get a shot up over that or around that or just even deal with that? And so I'm sorry to digress a little bit, but it's just there are no easy matchups in this Big Ten, simply put. And Maryland's another one of them. They don't have a ton of depth. They play 5 guys, 28 minutes a game or more. That's a ton, but they're big men. In freshman Derek Queen, who I would say is one of the 2 or 3 best freshmen in the Big Ten this year, with Kasparis Giaconis from Illinois, and probably Jace Richardson from Michigan State has also emerged in that group. But then they also have Julian Reese and Derek Queen. I should have said, 16 points a game, 9 rebounds a game. And then Julian Reese, who it feels like has just been there forever. Now he might be known as the brother of Angel Reese, but he's averaging 13 and 9 a game as well. So you essentially got 2 dudes averaging 15 and 10 in the paint. And that is going to be task number 1 for Michigan to keep them off the boards.
I think I like the matchup a little bit better for Michigan than you do. I think that if they can spread them out and get their offense going, Maryland has been playing some lower scoring games the last 2 at least, 68-64, 58-55. Before that, everyone scores a lot against USC, it seems, but 101 on Iowa, 88 on USC, and 83 on Nebraska. So I think Michigan can score with them. And like you said, they just got to take away Queen and some of their inside shots. And you have the home floor, last home game of the year. It should be a good environment at Chrysler. And really, if they can just get back playing to what they do, do what they do. That's what it's going to be about.
And I don't want to paint this like Michigan has no anything like that. We've seen Michigan in close games against pretty much everyone, and I would expect the same.
What do you think the spread is? It probably hasn't come out yet, but Michigan is probably favored, right, by maybe a couple, 1 or 2.
Oh, on KenPom has this Michigan 76, Maryland 75. So KenPom has this 1 point Michigan. No doubt. For the record, they also had Michigan beating Illinois by 2 or 3. As well. So just everything needs to be grain of salt.
It's not the be all end all. Yeah.
No, it's not. But it's a great measure to show, hey, don't jump off the ship just because there've been a few rough days and Maryland's a good team. It's not like Michigan has no shot in this at all. It looks like another coin flip, and Michigan's been very good in coin flip games. But my concern from the Michigan perspective in this game is the 3-point line. Maryland is second in league play, essentially 37%, 36.9%. That's what Illinois just shot. And 37% from long range feels like 60, and so, and that's what Maryland is averaging, in Big Ten play. And then on the flip side, Maryland is holding opponents to a little over 31%, 31.4% from long range. That's 4th in the Big Ten. So they are the 2nd best team offensively, the 4th best team defensively. And Michigan has struggled from long range recently. There's just no way around that. And and Michigan still defends it pretty well. They're 5th in the Big Ten in 3-point percentage against, but we talked about it earlier, 16th offensively. And that's where some of Maryland's guards are going to come into play, whether that be a Rodney Rice, right, who came in from Virginia Tech, averaging almost 14 points a game. And then, but really, if there's one guard that I would circle, it's actually not Rice. It's Jacoby Gillespie, 6'1", 185-pound transfer from Belmont. Dude is almost having 50, 40, 90 splits. His first year in the Big Ten. He is shooting 47% from the floor, 41.5% from 3-point range on 6 tries a game, and shooting 86% from the line. And so, it's just that's probably my concern. If I had one, I don't know if Trey Donaldson, frankly, has been Trey Donaldson's best game against another really good point guard in this league was against Penn State and Ace Baldwin. He had 21 points, 7 assists, and no turnovers. His best game of the year. Other than that, Braden Smith kind of stole his lunch money. Some of these other guards, he didn't have a great game at Ohio State. We've talked about it. He's been quiet the last 5. And so if I was Michigan, I'd probably challenge Trey Donaldson. We need you, dude, in the worst way.
Yep. We'll see. Want to share a prediction real quick and then we'll get on out of here?
No, because I've been wrong about the last 4 or 5. Yeah, you go for it. I'm done. I'm done. And maybe I'll give one. You go first. What do you think?
You're gonna cop out here?
No, I'll go for it. But I'll let you go first.
Okay, I think Michigan wins a real grudge match against Maryland. In that range, like what Ken Palm had, 75, 74. Maybe I'm going to give him 76, 74, just to be a little different. And then I think, they're kind of running into a buzzsaw at Michigan State right now, and they're peaking at the right time. And if Michigan wins at Maryland, the Spartans will still be playing for something in the solo Big Ten title. So I think that's a tough matchup. And they probably lose by about 8 to 10 to 12, which is kind of what Michigan State's been beating people by lately. But it's a close game where it's still up in the air in the second half. And then I think if that happens, I think Michigan's a dangerous team to watch out for in the Big Ten tournament, because they'll be coming in needing a couple more statement wins and wanting to end go into March on a good note. So I think they probably get to at least Saturday in the Big Ten tournament, but we should have more coverage for that next week. But that's just an early prediction.
I could see it. I could see all of that happening as well. I'm just a little scarred from this most recent Illinois game, but I just don't know. I just don't know that Michigan is playing well enough right now to be hanging with the best 2 teams in the league. And that's what I think Michigan State and Maryland are. And in that order, I think Michigan State's the best. Maryland might be second. If they're not second, they're third. And it's because Wisconsin is second or third. I think Michigan is right on that level with Purdue. Right about 4th in the Big Ten, just a little tick below those other 3. But it's also not just about how good you are. It's how you are playing in the moment. And Michigan is just not playing well right now. It's been offense, it's been defense. Andrew, we didn't even talk about it. Their defense twice this week gave up 57.5 and 62. This is not just missing threes. It's become widespread. Now, we would all love it if you could, just stop the bleeding, turn off the faucet, and just right this ship. But I don't know that it happens this week. And so I think Michigan actually goes on its longest losing streak of the year. I think Michigan loses to Maryland. And then if imagining Michigan State beats Iowa, that would mean that the odds makers are just punching air. And the schedules makers, I should say, are punching air that game in East Lansing is not coming down to all the marbles. And if it's not, you wonder, I could see it going both ways, either way, right? If Michigan State already has it wrapped up, they're on their high horse, right? They're ready to make a statement. The Michigan comes in and steals one, or it's just one of those afternoons,
just a party
center.
Yeah,
and those can get away from you, even the best teams on the best of days. And so, it's really hard because we're predicting 4 games. If Maryland, if Iowa, then this, then that. But just based on the way they're playing right now, I something would have to change for me to say, oh yeah, I think they're going to win one of these games. Now I'm not picking them to get bounced in the tournament. I got to see the draw. They could, and I wouldn't bet against them, like you said, to make a run in Indy the following week, just to right the ship. But it feels like it's snowballing a little bit, and I just can't pick them right now to get out of their own way. But the wonderful part of sports is we shall see, and there is a reason the games are played. And Michigan hasn't lost 3 in a row all year, so I'm predicting them to go. Maybe that's foolish, right? I'm saying. They haven't done that yet. So stay optimistic. Michigan fans, listeners, I really apologize if this felt too Debbie Downer, if the sky was falling. But just from where they came from last year to build up these expectations, we did have a level of expectation for this team and for the players who can play better. And coaches, frankly, who can coach better. And so that's the standard that we will be holding them to on this podcast, the standard we know that they're capable of. And it's been a wonderful year. Dusty earned an extension that was well-deserved. He went back to Indiana and got his revenge. Roddy Gale went back to Ohio State and got his revenge. Juwan Howard, kudos to Juwan Howard for what he just did. Coming back to Chrysler Center, walking out of the tunnel where he had only walked out of as a player or as a coach, but to do it as a father, to be there for Jace, phenomenal. Vlad Golden gets engaged. Then he gets reunited with his parents after 5 years. I mean, there have been storylines abounding from this team, and so many of them all year long have been positive. But right now, things are trending in a less positive direction. And we have to acknowledge that and just keep your fingers crossed that it flips, because a March run would be very, very enjoyable for a team that has not had one in a few years. Remember, they had gone to 5 straight Sweet 16s before missing the tournament the past 2 seasons. And so, been a little drought, but it was really good before then, and you can see that it can be really good again. And you just want to capture that magic. So, Andrew, one final thought, and then we'll sign off.
I mean, buckle up. I mean, the ups and downs of March are what it's all about, right? You know, if it's always up, then it's not as rewarding. So buckle up. It should be fun. I still think it's going to be entertaining, even for Michigan fans, even if they're not playing their best right now. I mean, there's plenty of time. Like if this was during the Big Ten tournament and they just lost 1-0, we're talking next week they've lost 3 games in a row, or that's a different story. But there's still plenty of time left.
More than they're 14-4 in the second best conference in the country. It's phenomenal work. And that's where we're going to leave it. So grab your nitroglycerin pills, everybody. And as Andrew said, buckle up, because we are going to be in for quite the ride over the next few weeks. And we hope you keep it locked here. That is on Hail Yes and on Freep.com. So that's where you will continue to get wall-to-wall coverage of your favorite college hoops teams in this state. I also had sent out a text to Michigan football seeing if they had officially announced their first spring practice. They have not, or at least I haven't heard back yet. So I was just going to say spring practice is on the way too. So I just don't know exactly the hour that will be. But when we do, we will let you know. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you to all of those who make it possible as well, from the top down. Our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery-Nichols, our sports editor, Bill Bradley, our audio engineer, Robin Chan, and that goes for Andrew as well. I'm Tony. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the week. This is Hail Yes.